Hey guys, welcome back to Kelsey's Corner booth, and if you are new here, well, I'm Kelsey. So I am participating in the Ugly Duckling Challenge. This challenge is about taking the worst piece you can find and remaking it into the most beautiful piece. This challenge specifically is the piece that we choose, we either need to give it away, or if we sell it, we donate the money to like an organization of some sort or something. Wait till the end of what I choose to do. But this challenge is hosted by Cory from Desert DIY, and if you haven't already, go check out her YouTube. She has amazing videos, and you will really enjoy watching them. Alright, on to the video. So today's video is on this planter, or a small side table thing, not sure what you would want to call it. I'm saying planter because that's kind of my idea behind it. And if you haven't already, go like and subscribe my channel. I'm trying to reach a small goal by mid next year. So with you sharing and subscribing, it will help me out a ton. I found this piece at a garage sale and the guy wanted $10 for this thing. So of course I was not going to spend that much for this piece of junk, and I say that nicely. But I found a few other pieces from the garage sale, and I made the guy a deal, and I said, look, if I buy these pieces, will you take like $3 for this? And he took the $3 and he said, yep, that's good. I mean, I know the man is trying to get some money too, and I'm not trying to cheap him out by anything, but this was not worth $10 at all. These screws were just as stubborn as all get out. The rust on them was crazy. I'm assuming this was a project piece from like a very long time ago, or it stayed outside and was out in the elements of Arizona, which is not always the best. So trying to get these rusted screws out it was a challenge in itself, and nothing was working, so you'll see me getting frustrated. I ended up like tearing some of these bamboo pieces out. It was a mess. And my daughter was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "This is tough. They were very hard to get out." So I'm only assuming these legs are real bamboo. I've never had bamboo furniture, so I don't know if this is real or fake. But either way, these legs have to go. I am not keeping them. I was going to redo the entire piece, but how much sense would that be to buy a piece and then just end up buying all the stuff to remake the piece? So I was not going to do that. I wanted to spend as little as possible, and I just kept the wood tops, got rid of the legs, and I can't wait for you to see what it looks like at the end. It's amazing. So I'm puzzling them all back together because after sanding, sometimes you can oversand, or it just may not fit the way you think it will. And there is the end piece right here. It doesn't fit well with the middle piece, the smaller end piece. So that was kind of frustrating, and especially trying to put them together, you'll see they kind of just don't even up. And you can see I'm like sitting here thinking of, what should I do? What do I do? What do I do? And yeah, you'll see what I end up doing. But it wasn't, like I said, this is not like perfect. I'm not a wood connoisseur, so to say. But this was my very first piece of like actually reconstructing something and really putting it back together, really, so to say. And so I'm learning through mistakes. I'm learning through a bunch of stuff, and I did a lot of mistakes in this video, but it taught me a lot of things for like the next time I do a piece like this. So here is one of those mistakes that I was telling you I made. I should have clamped them on the top and the bottom, because you can see as I'm clamping on the top, they kind of like curve up. If I had put 2 clamps on the bottom, it probably would have kept it more straight than, putting all that pressure, going up. So there's a mistake there, and I learned that as rewatching the videos, and I was like, you know what, that would have been smarter to do. And just like on this one, maybe put a clamp on one side on the top and then another one going up from the bottom up. So yeah, just learning as you go. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes will happen, you will learn, and it's okay. It's just wood, it's just a small project. You're not hurting anybody, it's not hurting anything to make a mistake. So yeah, make those mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and then improve. And that's all you can do. So as I am spreading the wood filler, I'm treating it as like cake icing. I make a lot of cakes for my kids' birthdays and all that stuff, and I just went, you know what, this is kind of like icing. And so I just put it thick on the uneven parts and, just scraped it evenly across the wood. So I took the higher part of the wood and then just scraped it evenly instead of dipping down. I'm hoping that makes a lot of sense, but I just scraped it evenly across the wood. That way there wasn't a difference, like a bump or anything like that. I have 1-inch dowels for the legs, and the holes were just a bit smaller. I'm assuming they were like 3/4 or something. So I just need to widen them. I took this piece, and this wood cracked pretty easily. So you see me here patching it as I was like trying to pre-drill those holes, and it was just a mess, but it worked out in the end. So right here I am just kind of eyeballing where I'm going to put these holes in this scrap wood I found in my garage. If you want to measure, you measure with your heart's desire. I just eyeball a lot of stuff, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it. I'm not like an expert at it, but with a lot of practice and OCD, you get pretty good at eyeballing things. So you could see off to the side there, I was gonna use the old pieces that were already on the planter thing, is what I'm gonna call it. But I was trying to pre-drill the hole, and it completely split that wood. That wood is very fragile. So thank God I had this extra piece laying around, and it worked perfectly. And I'm just going to dry fit the legs to make sure they fit and make sure I put the dowels in correctly and the holes were big enough. There was a ton of sanding to do in this project. I was ready for it, but at the same time I was not expecting how much I needed to sand. And right here I'm just trying to sand it all nice and even to where it looks good whenever I paint it. And this paint is just some extra paint I had laying around my garage. I have like a big old, I guess, box of paint. And I think this is like a light gray. It'll show here in a minute. But it's like a light gray, and I thought it would be the best way to brighten up the piece from the black and the red that it was. And I was thinking light gray or white would be best, and it would make the space that it goes in just, you know, bright and alive instead of dark and gloomy. Which I don't mind. I'm a dark and gloomy kind of gal, but with this piece I really wanted to brighten it up. So I'm measuring these legs at 30 inches. I wanted to give myself room. The previous legs that were on there were, I think, 27.5 inches. So I gave myself 30 inches, get some room, and these things just kept falling. And this will tell you later on how like blonde I am, and you'll know why. But I thought 30 inches would be the best height, and then if I needed to shorten it down, sand it, whatever I needed to do, which you will find out I will need to do. The stain that I am using, if you recognize it, is in my last video of the table that I just did, and I will have that linked right up here, and you can go check that out after this video. I love how this stain gives this wood a natural look to it. It's not a weird colored stain, it just keeps those natural colors that the wood has already, and I just really like this stain. I was very happy that I bought it. So right here I'm measuring the stabilizer piece about an inch away from the edge, and the last stabilizer piece went up and down, so vertical. I wanted this to go horizontal, that way it hits all 3 pieces of wood and it keeps it together instead of just on the one piece of wood, if that makes sense. So that is what I am doing here. So I'm using a circular saw for this. I was not about to hand saw through this thick piece of wood, and plus using that hand saw over there was a pain in the tuchus for those little rods. So I wanted to get this quick, done, and over with. And it was quick. So I'm making sure the drill bit is the right size. So I wanted to do a dry run on a scrap piece of wood, make sure I had the right hole, right. I ended up not even using these screws. I ended up needing longer ones. So, I mean, they still fit with the hole size, but it was just, I was really trying to make sure it all worked. And right here I mess up. I didn't drill deep enough, and then I ended up breaking the screw, having to unscrew it from the hole, screwing it back in, was gonna go backwards, had to turn it around. It was just it was a bunch. So I learned to go just a little bit deeper. I was worried that I was gonna go through the front, so I didn't want to go too deep. So I was dry fitting the legs again just to make sure they fit. Keep, checking as you go. And they didn't. On the bottom part, I accidentally kind of shifted the piece over too much. So I'm using a bigger drill bit and just kind of like, I guess, taking off or sanding off like the little edges. It wasn't a whole lot. It just was just a little overlay. But I'm just doing that. Didn't really do any change or damage to the hole size. but they ended up fitting the way I wanted them to, so that works. So as I'm leveling this out, I did not realize that I am leveling it out on an uneven surface. Sometimes when I get in the moment, I'm doing something, sometimes all common sense just leaves my head. And this was one of them. So I'm sitting here figuring out, why is it not level, and I measured, the legs were just barely off from each other, so it shouldn't have been such a really crazy difference in the leveling. So I'm sitting here leveling, figuring out what I need to do, and you'll see later on that I end up figuring it out and it ends up being level at the end. So it's just something that my brain does, and I'm just like, what in the world? And I'm sitting sanding, and I kept sanding, and I was like, I'm gonna sand these dang legs to where there's nothing left. So I ended up taking it to a more leveled out area, and it was level. So that was funny and fun. Also, trying to squeeze this dang wood glue out with very weak wrists is the hardest thing to do in the entire world. So I highly suggest that if you have weak wrists or weak hands or something like that, and you need wood glue, put it in a throwaway cup or something, just a little bit at a time, and paint it on. I'm sure other people know that, but oh my goodness, this was terrible, and my wrists kept popping, and I was like, no, this is not fun. This is not fun at all. My thinking face is so angry. Holy moly. As I am putting the bottom piece on, I'm kind of eyeballing it, but I'm using my marks that I just made earlier in the video that where I want it to be, and if it ends up in that spot, awesome. But I'm just eyeballing it, making sure it goes in, and it worked out perfectly. So I couldn't have been more happier with how good and how simple this part was, if that makes sense. I was very happy that it wasn't as frustrating as I thought it would be. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm stumped. I'm like, why is this not level? So I measure. They're all, I mean, just a hair off of each other. I mean, nothing that's too noticeable. So I start sanding and I'm like, okay, and then it's still uneven and I'm like, so I sand some more and I'm like, okay, and it's still even, and then it kicked in and I'm like, oh yeah, my driveway is at a slant. So you'll see it at the end. It's not perfectly even, or I mean, like level, but it's level enough to where nothing's gonna like slide forward or backwards. So I don't know if you want to remember what it looked like before, but let's check it out. Remember how it was all torn up and just, I don't know what that black stuff is on top, and there's literally electrical tape holding on to the, like holding the leg together. I mean, this thing was just a mess, and I can't wait for you to see the final result. Ta-da! Here's the end. I did end up giving this piece away. I didn't want to sell it. I wanted to just give it away for free, and the person I gave it to did not want to be filmed, but they loved the piece either way, and I think it'll be a great piece to have in their house for many years to come. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye!